Our topic today is going to be bread of life. That's going to be the teaching for today, bread of life. Let's start off here in Matthew 4. Verse 4, it says, but he answered and said, it is written, man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceedeth out of the mouth of God. So he's contrasting our natural nourishment for us that assists us in, living through our everyday with what actually really sustains us is his word. And then let's go to 3 John 2. It says, beloved, I wish above all things that thou mayest prosper and be in health, even as thy soul prospers. Let's go to Proverbs 3, and we'll put a lot of these things together. Let's see, I believe it's verse 8. And here's referencing the word again. It says, it shall be health to thy navel and marrow to thy bones. It shall be health to thy navel. It's referencing the word. Go over to the next chapter, chapter 4, verse 22. I know I'm going kind of fast. 4:22, it says, again, referencing the word, it says, for they are life unto those that find them, and health to all their flesh, and health to all their flesh. So again, we're hearing about man shall not live by bread alone, but every word that proceedeth out of the mouth of God. Then how this word is health to us. And then let's go to 1 Timothy 4, verse 8. It says, for bodily exercise profiteth little, but godliness is profitable to all things, having the promise of life that now is and that which is to come. So, there's things that we do to maintain our everyday life, and it's saying that bodily exercise has a profit, but it's small in comparison to the godliness that ultimately profits our entire life. All right, so we're talking about we're basically talking about the word, and we're talking about health. Again, let's go to John 6. So some of these other scriptures line up with what we're talking about, the bread of life. John chapter 6. Because you got some good stuff to reference for you later in your own study time. But John chapter 6, verse 32. And then Jesus said unto them, verily, verily, I say unto you, Moses gave you not that bread from heaven. It says, but my Father giveth you the true bread from heaven. It says, for the bread of God is he which cometh down from heaven and giveth life unto the world. So he's referencing himself. It says, then said they unto him, Lord, evermore give us this bread. And Jesus said unto them, I am the bread of life, and he that cometh to me shall never hunger, and he that believeth on me shall never thirst. And if you drop down here, verse 48, it says, I am that bread of life, in verse 48. In 51, it says, well, we'll just read 48. 49 says, your fathers did eat manna in the wilderness and are dead. So what he's saying is that manna sustained them for a temporary period of time. But they're not still living. Basically what he's saying is, what I'm trying to give you is what gives you the ultimate life, which is eternal life. So he says, verse 50, it says, this is the bread which cometh down from heaven, that a man may eat thereof and not die. It says, I am the living bread which came down from heaven. If any man eat of this bread, he shall live forever. And the bread that I will give is my flesh, which I will give for the life of the world. And then if you go over a few chapters, go back a few chapters, chapter 1. It says chapter 1, verse 1, it says, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. The same was in the beginning with God. And all things were made by him, and without him was not anything made that was made. And in him was life. In him was life. And the life was the light of man. And if you drop down here to verse 14, it says, and the word. So again, the word that is referencing to, look, the word was made flesh and dwelt among us, and we beheld his glory, the glory of the only begotten, key word, only begotten of the Father, full of grace and truth. So he's saying that word became flesh. That word became flesh. And if you go to John 3, 16, it says, it's talking about the only begotten of the Father. 3:16 says, for God so loved the world, he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever shall believe in him shall not perish but have everlasting life. All right, so again, to believe is gives you the ability to receive. So it's not enough that he has this bread of life for us. We have to receive it. We have to absorb it. We have to consume it. And if we consume it, it'll be health to our bones. If we consume it, it will give us an everlasting life. So it's a new diet. Look at Psalm 107. And I'm about to do a teaching on healing. So some of these scriptures you'll hear during that teaching, but for what we're going to talk about today, it's we're going to look at it from just slightly different lenses. Again, health and healing will come up in what we're talking about, but just a little slightly different. Psalms 107, verse 20, it says, look, he sent his word and healed them and delivered them from their destruction. So again, we know he sent the word, so he sends the word. That word became flesh and dwelt among us, and when we receive that word gives us the eternal life that we have. So it's a bread of life. It's trying to get something to us. What the Lord was showing me as I was meditating through this, he says, we're operating on poor diets. So I think about how naturally, if we operate on a poor diet, it changes everything that we do. It changes our entire flow. Like, so I was sharing this with somebody the other day. If you just ate, pick something, cake and ice cream, or soda and cookies, that's your everyday diet. Well, if that's your everyday diet, you're going to get a whole lot less done. I know that's kind of messing you up back there, AJ, your cookies and stuff. But you will. Like, you'll find yourself, and, you're young, so you probably could relate to this. You find yourself like you don't feel like doing nothing. Matter of fact, y'all could test it out this week. Try going 3 or 4 days and just eat as much sugar. Well, that's probably not good. Something might happen to you if you eat as much sugar as possible. But, you're already eating a lot of sugar, so try not having any sugar and see how you get up in the morning. So of course, I always give the testimony of when I was pursuing basketball, I had to set up my year like seasons because I wanted to simulate an NBA season. So I had off season. So when they had off season, I had off season. During their season is when I probably played 4 or 5 leagues because I wanted to simulate, if I'm going to play in the league, I got to get used to playing 4 or 5 games a week. Or, well, you probably thought it was more than that. But on the off season, that's when I would have my root beer and Oreo cookies. That was my thing back then. I haven't had that in a long time. But and then when the season was coming, I had to go back to bland. So bland is no sugars, no sweets, none of that stuff. But I remember my body was like, what is you doing? Like I would sit down to watch a game or something, and my hand would go down to my like where the root beer normally would be located, but it wasn't there. And then my body would be like, no, we can't watch TV. We need Oreos. But I noticed during that summer, I could barely get up in the morning. But when I went back to the bland diet, I'm ready to go. Now, the interesting thing is, naturally, when you eat the right things, just like if you drink water, if you want to have a great tomorrow, drink a lot, hydrate yourself today. You just feel good and feel, I got that, I'll do that. or if you lift weights, or if you run, see how you're running and you lifting weights if your diet is not full of sugar and stuff like that. You're a runner, so the stretch out days, when you get up and go running on the stretch out days, you'd be like, I ain't gonna run 5 today. Maybe I'll run 3, 2.5, or maybe I'll just run so I can say I ran today. But you know what I'm saying? Your want to changes. But when you take on a proper diet, you just feel like doing everything. So how do you think it is when you take on a proper spiritual diet? How do you think, how do you navigate towards purpose when you're taking on the right spiritual diet? So when you take on a bread of life, see, it says that life is light. It helps you to see clearly to what you're supposed to do. And I noticed this too, when you have the proper diet, the improper diet, so let's say we could use too much cholesterol or too much of the wrong stuff. What happens when you're not taking in, you're not enough hydration, you find yourself trying to read, but you can't see. Everything's blurred because you can't see clearly naturally if you don't eat right. Well, guess what? You can't see clearly spiritually if you don't eat right. So that's why he sent his word to heal us from not just our natural blind, our spiritual blindness. Because he knows if the adversary can give us a poor diet, it will create blind spots. See, blind spots is the effect of having more of a worldly diet than a spiritual diet. Just like blurred vision is the effect of having more of maybe the wrong foods, natural foods, versus hydration and the right foods, eating your vegetables and things like that. So people walk around and, they go through all types of eye tests and stuff like that because, man, I'm just not seeing right because they're so used to a poor diet, they don't even question the diet. They're questioning the vision. You see what I'm saying? As opposed to, let me connect this to what I'm taking in. But no, I'm not going to question what I'm taking in because I love it. Tastes good. You know what I'm saying? So think about it. Some people never challenge their diet because that's what they're used to. So they'll tolerate blurred vision just to eat the wrong things. Now, are we tolerating blind spots to take in a worldly diet? Right, because we should be taking in more of a spiritual diet. So again, blind spots are an effect of a worldly diet. And so look at this, for example, like you've heard me say this before. I actually did a teaching on blind spots. But the amazing thing about blind spots is just so intriguing, and it still happens to us when we drive. We say that car came out of nowhere. But the car was there all the time. It was existing, it had manifested, but you couldn't see it. But you were confident. And if you're like me, you looked. You turned your head and looked. You checked every mirror. And you felt it was safe because one time before you tried to change lanes and the car beeped at you or car swerved but the blind spot, you can't see what's in it, but it doesn't mean nothing's there. So imagine you having spiritual blind spots. That means something is manifested that's plainly seen, but you can't see it. So you can actually have a behavior that's detrimental to you, and everybody else can see it, but you can't.
Thanks for tuning into Heirs TV. The completion of this video or entire audio can be accessed at our website at www.heirscc.org or on Heirs CCC channel, YouTube, and Heirs Radio via SoundCloud and iTunes. Donations can be given at our website. Thank you. Remember, at Heirs, we believe we're just what you prayed for.